Okay, so I'm going to go over the 2016 National Latin Exam, Level 3-4 Poetry. Follow along, and there are actually going to be 5 embedded items in this quiz with which is associated the video, making sure you've watched it. So, number 1, sunt vobis, there are for y'all 3 dogs. This is a classic example of the dative of possession being used with the form of the verb to be. And so there are for y'all 3 dogs. You have 3 dogs. So there it is, y'all, vobis. Number 2, decet. Decet is the word that means it is befitting or it is right. It is decent. So non decet, it's an impersonal verb. It is not decent that you hit your brother. It is not right. And so therefore, be as in boy. Right off the bat, that's your first item, decet, meaning obviously to be befitting, to be right. And it's an impersonal verb, meaning the subject is it, but really the subject is going to be a verb expression. Number 3, Ascanius was running through the woods as if, quasi, as if a deer. And so therefore, it is going to be introducing something of a simile. Ut skis, ut, whenever you have a ut, you look to see, do you have a subjunctive verb? When you don't, that ut is going to mean as. So Dido, as you know, was a most powerful woman. So as you know. And so here it is, a as in apple. The next one, Turnus fears. Now you have lots of ut clauses. And the ut clauses include the ut result clause, but that would have some sort of a degree word, like so or so much or so big or something like that. You also have the ut purpose clause that shows purpose. And then in the purpose clause, it is going to be that the ut translates as so that. That is not what we have here. You have the ut indirect command, but that's going to be introduced by a commandy word like encourages or orders them that they do something. And here is what we have, what is called the fear clause, introduced by a meaning of fear. But in a fear clause, the ut and the ne are reversed. So this ut here is actually negative. So Turnus is afraid that Lavinia not love him. So that Lavinia not love him. And so it is going to be here, not that Lavinia will love him, but that Lavinia does not love him. It's the opposite when it is a fear clause. And you know it's a fear clause because it's going to be introduced by a fear. The fear clauses are reversed. Please remember that. Here it's subjunctive. We fear a giant liar. And when it's the main verb of the clause, not in some sort of subordinate clause that is governed by an ut or a cum or something like that. It is let, the subject verb. So let us move the horse into the city. Let's move the horse into the city is the answer you have there. A large number, lapidum. This is genitive plural with the um, of stones. And so here the translation needs to be the genitive of. Psyche, a candent, lit the lantern and turned the lantern on fire. Odd plus a gerund or gerundive, it's for the purpose of looking at her husband. Well, what the Latin exam often does is that it will try to make it see where you can understand the equivalency. So what is the purpose, or I should say, what is the equivalency of for the purpose of looking at her husband? So she lit the lamp, not looking at her husband, not having looked at her husband, but to look at her husband for the purpose of looking at her husband. In Latin, we use these various constructions for purpose. In English, we use the infinitive for purpose. And your second word is that gerund or gerundive, aspiciendum. That is your second item that is embedded. Dido asked Aeneas why, imperfect subjunctive, infinitive plus ending, why he was leaving, here translated as the imperfect subjunctive. And this is an indirect question. It's not a direct question, why is he leaving? But rather she asked him why he was leaving. Ablative absolute, we've seen that so many times in Caesar, with Gaul having been conquered. So with Gaul having been conquered, and there's your correct translation there. If, and remember, whenever you have an if clause, look, see it's kind of verb you have. If they are present subjunctive, remember it should and would. If it were imperfect subjunctive, it'd be were verbing and would verb. But here it is the should would. If your friends should be or should become very rich. And so it is if your friends should become very rich, they would send money ad te to you. So here is the answer, should. Present subjunctives should and then would. Here, dormiendum est, it is showing the obligation. It, as your subject, must be slept by me. And again, you just have to pick the equivalency, and that would be I must sleep. It must be slept by me, I must sleep. I asked how so many horses And then again, you've got to recognize what kind of a subjunctive this is. Capti esse by itself would be a perfect infinitive, perfect passive infinitive. Put the ending on there and it makes a pluperfect passive verb. Had been captured, perfect or pluperfect passive subjunctive. So take the perfect infinitive, capti esse, add the nt, and next thing you know, you have a pluperfect passive. Had been captured, D as in dog. Andromache, your husband, which is not the subject, never again. And then here's the subject, you, and here it is amplecteris. From a deponent verb, amplector, amplecti. It is a third conjugation, and so you will. It's not had. Had would be a passive looking periphrastic. It's not were, there's no BA. It's not did, that also would be a periphrastic. It'd be amplecta s, but it's going to be you will never again embrace. That long E tells you that it is future. This is a bit of a difficult one. Nevertheless, the nymph noticed, was noticing, sentio sentire, that she has to be at the same time. So if that's happening in the past with the BA, then that also needs to happen in the past. So not is being changed, but was being changed. The present infinitive occurs at the same time. Minerva is bigger by a lot in her wisdom than the other goddesses. Here, that is the ablative degree of difference. That is your comparative. This is your ablative of comparison. She is greater by a lot than the other goddesses. And this would be your ablative of specification. In what way is she greater? She's greater in her wisdom. So, looking for the grandson. There it is. C, Minerva is much greater by a lot in wisdom than the other goddesses. C is in cat. On the following day, Ovid will set out from Rome. Remember, when it comes to cities, towns, and small islands, going towards it, you just put it in the accusative. That'd be Romam. From it, you put in the ablative from Rome, and then if it's at that place, it is in the locative. So this is ablative from Rome, and this is your third item that you'll put in, just simply Roma. You can't put long marks in the Canvas platform, but there it is, Roma. I know that our friendship always. Now, fore, remember, is the equivalency of futuram esse. It is the future active infinitive of sum esse. And so here, since this is a future infinitive, it's going to be after the skio. So I right now know that our friendship will be. It's got to happen after the main verb, and that instance will be futuram esse is the fore. Lacrimantem is just a regular present active participle. Verbing. Anna ran to the crying sister, to the sister crying. Now we move into the cultural items. The patron who sponsored a number of the poets of the Augustan age. Agrippa was his military right-hand man of Augustus. Marcellus was his nephew. It is Maecenas. Maecenas was the one who was the patron of the arts and of poetry. What would you show your excitement as you announced to your friends that your favorite band was coming to town? You would say, "It's amazing to say, memorabile dictu," with that supine. You would not say, "How sad." You would not say, "Where it stands, having stood where." And you would not say, "It pains me," but rather you would say, "Miraculous to say, my band's coming to Covington." Which of the following best summarizes the common usage of the Latin phrase, "the situation itself speaks," loquor loqui? It would be, "the situation itself speaks, it's obvious." What emperor, lover of all things Greek, brought the beard back into fashion and established the northern boundary of the Roman Empire in Britain because he built a wall there? That would be Hadrian. Hadrian. And that is your fourth item. There's going to be 5 total. That's your fourth item. Name the mountain on which Apollo's oracle at Delphi is located. Not Mount Vesuvius, that exploded. Not Mount Etna, that is the pimple of Sicily, where, of course, Vulcan has his forge. Not Mount Olympus, where all the gods reside, but it's rather Mount Parnassus, Apollo on Mount Parnassus. Scan the first 4 feet of the line, dactylic hexameter. Long because of the NT, long because of the MP, long because of the GN, and long. So now we've got 3 spondies in a row. And so it would be spondy, spondy, dactyl, long, short. That A is long because of the T and the M, and then AI is short. So it goes spondy, spondy, Dactyl. Dactyl. So spondy, spondy, dactyl, dactyl. The answer is D as in dog. Which of the following pairs is most associated with satire? Virgil and Lucretius, write epic. Catullus and Ovid, write lyric. Plautus and Terence, both write plays. And Juvenal. You hear satire? Juvenal. Horace also writes, of course, satire, but Juvenal. And that's your fifth and final option. But listen for the rest of these. Who is the author of the Meditations, Stoic philosophy, and depicted here, right in that picture? That, of course, is Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, Stoic philosophy. What Latin word is the root of the English words consumption, sumo sumere, presume, sumo sumere, and resume, sumo sumere? Sumo sumere. To take up. What Greek warrior sulked in his tent for 10 days after Agamemnon took his slave girl? That would be Achilles. His best friend Patroclus is the one that goes off and fights with his armor and loses it. And then finally, who was turned into a laurel tree as she ran to escape from Apollo? It is not Echo. It is Echo and Narcissus. It is not Atalanta. It's Atalanta and Hippomenes. And it's not Psyche. It's Psyche and Cupid, but rather it's Apollo and Daphne. That is your answer there. So you have your 5 items. Good luck on trying to translate the passages what best you can, and do the best you can. You should be able to do well on the language at any rate. So 11 minutes, free 100 for those 5 items. Go and put them into the quiz.